Ladies and gentlemen, okay. Sudah terdengar ya suaranya? Oke, baik. Okay. Good afternoon everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, welcome to the second plenary session. Today's session is being recorded and available also in Zoom meeting format. And I am Nahdlatul as a moderator, and also my colleague Ibu Yunianti Hudaifa, your moderator for this second plenary session. And I think we go to this sessions immediately because the time is so limited. Before the session begin, before our five speakers begin, let me tell you about the session will run. Firstly, panelists will present the material about 5 minutes. 5 or 10 minutes? 10 minutes is enough, okay? Okay, and then after that, the session will be continued with another speakers, with another panelists, and on and on and on. Okay, and there are 5 speakers. Following that, and we'll have a question and answer, and we'll be guided by Bu Yunianti. About 30 minutes. I hope this is enough because as time permits. And finally, we will conclude in conclusion session. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, now allow me to welcome the first presenter, Mrs. Homa Hoodfar. She's a professor of anthropology at Concordia University. She will talk about women political movement in Iran. I think she's ready to talk. Mrs. Hoodfar is a professor.
Yes.
Okay. May I see your face, please?
Well,
okay, good. Yeah, she's online now. Hello, Mrs. Homa.
Yes, hello, I'm online, but I guess you have to unblock my video. So I'm trying, but I can't unblock it.
Okay, you can continue your presentation. We can hear your voice very clearly.
Okay, and I had a PowerPoint, but I don't know. Can I share the screen? I guess the video you have to, from your side, you have to enable my PowerPoint, my video.
Okay.
Okay.
Already, Miss.
Okay, that's so can I share the screen?
Yes, we can see your presentation.
Okay. I'm not sure, can you see the presentation?
Yes, Mrs. Homa.
Okay.
Start your talk.
Yes, I just want to make sure you can see the screen. Yeah, okay. Well, I just start, of course, many of you there's an uprising in Iran, and these days there's international communities paying a lot more attention, because not only because there's an uprising in Iran and there's objection to the central government, but also it is a woman-centered. The slogan is Women, Life, Freedom. So what I want to do to say firstly how it has started. Mahsa Amini is a 22-year-old woman who was arrested in Tehran because she didn't wear her hijab according to the Iranian government rule. She was beaten. She was then taken to the hospital, but by that time she was brain dead. But police didn't treated this very casually and didn't really pay much attention. At her funeral, people started to demand an end to this compulsory vision and not being responsible to the nation. So that was the beginning. But I want to, maybe for the audience, just to briefly say, in 1979, when the Iranian Revolution happened, although women participated in the revolution massively, after Ayatollah Khomeini came to power, introduced, before even we had a constitution or decided what kind of a state we were going to have, they imposed compulsory hijab. They brought Sharia law. With that meant that the little reform for family law was canceled. Women were barred from a high position. It was a segregated society. Women's testimony was half as that as men. Their blood money was half as much as men. Practically, women were reduced to second citizen and introduce a gender segregated, try to introduce a gender segregated society. However, women didn't accept that even as it happened. And initially, within a couple of days of announcement, women had demonstration, large demonstration in Tehran against it. It was violently subdued, even though they, at some extent, was successful. But women didn't stop resistance. One of the major things that happened at that time was women started to read the Islamic text for themselves to contradict a lot of what religious leaders were saying, that this is according to Islam. So this was one movement that, of course, we know a lot more about it. And the other thing was a form of everyday resistance that women had started, and that way they for instance they didn't wear the style that government wanted to insist. They wore a different color because government wanted them to wear only black chador or brown or gray or navy blue. So women started to wear different colors. So the resistance and back and forth between the public and women and the state continued. In 2017, women, especially young women, objected to that. They took their veil off, and in the street, they were making it like a flag, objecting to this. A lot of women were put in jail, were punished. But this movement was called Daughters of Revolution, that continued. So the resistance had been there, but the leaders were not paying much attention, and they wanted to create this segregated gender apartheid society by force. Finally, when Mahsa Amini was killed, she was not the first one, but she was, people had enough. Now we have economic problem, we have other social problem, we have lack of transparency on the part of the government. And they had not succeeded in making women accept this compulsory hijab. 273 pieces of legislation, hundreds of thousands of police and Basiji as a moral police enforcing this, putting women in jail and punishing them, sometimes torturously. Still, women did not accept this. So the government in 2021 decided to impose a harsher policy, and basically that's the result. What Mahsa was killed, and many thousands of women were put in jail. Now, the funeral of Mahsa became a call to end this, and women started to burn their hijab. the interesting thing was some of the women who actually believed in hijab would also stand by and burn while they keep one hijab at their head, they would burn the other one because they disagreed with compulsory hijab. They oppose that this is imposed by Islam. But nonetheless, the regime is continuing to do that, to impose that. Today, as I'm talking to you, 16,000 people have been arrested and they are in jail. 460 people have died, 62 of whom are children from between age of 9 and 17. And the question is why? While the international community and some of the organizations have been supporting women, Iranian diaspora, that there are millions of women, Iranian have left Iran because they couldn't live under this segregated and gender apartheid society, undemocratic society. So they organized meeting of which a few weeks ago there were more than between 80,000 to 100,000 people came from across Europe to demonstrate against this. International organization, feminist organization have been supporting this movement. A lot of women, both inside and outside Iran, actors, sport person, celebrities have cut their hair in sympathy with and solidarity with the Iranian women. What has really, the question is why there hasn't been any comment from any of the major religious institution or scholars. So the question is, to what extent and how long people have to wait? And what about also ulama, who whether they are female ulama, feminist ulama, or people who are for gender equality? So that has become a question that is very hotly debated these days in Iran. And I just want to end. I'm happy to come back and give a lot more discussion about the content. It's a complex issue. It's not something I can explain in 5 minutes. But the point is, if we accept that Islam is a universal religion, where is the boundary? Boundary for the ulamas who are people who other Muslims look up to. How can we explain the silence of religious leaders, not just today, but since 1979? And it's not just today. In the case of Iran, people have passed. They are demanding complete separation of religion and politics. This is both from those pious people, practicing Muslims and non-practicing Muslims. But it's not just a question of Iran now, it's a question of Afghanistan, the kind of segregation and exclusion of women that is happening in Afghanistan. We don't see very much talk on the part of the ulama, on the part of the major Islamic centers that are supposed to not just sit and be intellectuals in this matter, but also defend the Muslims when they are subject to this kind of treatment, particularly when it is done by other Muslims in the name of Islam as well. So the other question is, where is really, if the Ummah is a universal, then does the national boundaries really limit us to actually talk about this?
Homa?
Yes.
One more minute?
No, it's just one sentence. Okay. And the question for me, the question that many of the Iranian and Afghani women are asking is, why the absence of a global social movement? We have so many scholars in the last 50 years who have read the text and all that with the women's as a women-friendly movement, but all these scholars they produce their knowledge, but is not gelled in a social movement that can support women's movement in other Muslim countries. So that I leave for the discussion later on. Thanks.
Okay, Thank you very much, Mrs. Homa.
Thank you.
This is a kind of very informative and comprehensive presentation about the gender equality now in Iran, especially about the resistance and compulsory in hijab, and also about harsh resistance, about Islamization in Iran now. However, it could emerge about the solidarity among Islam, among Muslims in Iran. Okay, now we go to the second panelist, Mrs. Rushan Abbas. Hello, Mrs. Rushan Abbas.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes.
Mrs. Rushan Abbas is a founder and executive director of the campaign for Uyghurs. Mrs. Rushan Abbas?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. Okay, microphone is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. There was a presentation, PowerPoint, I sent it over. I hope that's going to be on the screen, but let me go ahead, start my remarks. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk to you, and also to learn about the horrific tragedy that's being on hold upon the Uyghur Muslims. Before I begin my remarks, can I just say my thoughts and the du'as to go to the deceased that have passed due to the recent tragic earthquake. And I pray to Allah that those who have survived for a speedy recovery from their injuries, and the patients for their family members. Amen. And my community, the Uyghur Muslims, are facing an active genocide by the Chinese Communist regime because of their faith, ethnicity, culture, and the natural resources that we have in our homeland. I'm speaking to you today out of absolute necessity. My homeland, East Turkestan, is now called Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, has been facing active genocide in several years now. More than 3 million Uyghur Muslims are in the concentration camps, and the millions more are being subject to modern slavery. They are being physically and mentally tortured, forced to renounce their faith, subject to brainwashing, and used as guinea pigs to improve harmful technology and the biological weapons. China has been waging a war against Islam and against the Uyghurs, wielding their power to eradicate the Uyghur culture, religion, and identity. While they shake hands with Islamic governments for business abroad, at home they refer Islam as a mental disease and have outlawed every single normal aspect of the religion. Their genocide is a campaign to cleanse Uyghur Muslims. No Uyghurs safe even outside of those concentration camps. They live under the Chinese regime's complete orwellian surveillance. You can be arrested for performing prayer, reading the Holy Quran, or even observing Ramadan, fasting during Ramadan. It's for acts like these alone that millions of my people are kept in chains today. They are not committed any crimes, none of them charged with any crimes. Majority of the mosques are being demolished or converted to nightclubs and entertainment centers. Qurans are being burned. If there are any mosques left standing, it's for this Potemkin-style visits from the Muslim leaders or journalists around the world. The imams have been replaced with atheist Chinese government officials. The Chinese regime has taken advantage of war on terror and the media and the propaganda that has plagued the world since 9/11. By declaring that all Muslim Uyghurs are terrorists, they claim they have justification to militarize and oppress our homeland. The government tells the Chinese people and the world community without evidence that they simply aim to keep Uyghurs from being radicalized with anti-terrorism efforts. In reality, the efforts are to expel faith in Allah, the community, and the Quran. They want Uyghurs to proclaim that there is none worth of worship except the Chinese Communist Party and Xi Jinping is the messenger. Terrorism is a thin excuse used to round up millions of human lives. And the Chinese regime announcing openly to the world that they are sinifying Islam by changing the core principles of the religion. And they are getting away with it in front of the entire world community. How in the world can Islam be compatible with communist atheist ideology? China's war on Islam begins and ends with their attack on Uyghur Muslim women. Their bodies have been the battleground of this genocide. The Chinese regime's plan is to keep ensure that there will be no next generation of Uyghur Muslims to carry the tradition. They make this possible by forcibly sterilizing Uyghur women, performing unwilling abortions on them, and making them take unknown medications. The evidence repeatedly showed that the Chinese Communist Party is strategically sterilizing as many Uyghur women as possible, a clear violation of UN Genocide Convention. The birth rate has dropped by 50% in some of the places in our homeland. It's a strategy way to fracture a people's will and to stop population from growing. Almost 1 million Uyghur Muslim children are taken from their parents and sent to state-run orphanages. They break this bond to break the soul of each mother and also to keep her from passing down any remnant of her face. Over just one generation, the government can strip a community of their identity and dilute their gene. Instead of trying to hide this, Chinese government proudly and publicly announces on their official Twitter site that Uyghur women are no longer baby-making machines, a gross insult added to the crimes they have committed against my people. China's state media reported that 1.1 million Chinese cadres, mostly men, are sent to the Uyghur homes to live and monitor their daily lives and supervise them. Uyghur women are subject to sexual abuse inside of their own homes, while the men are sent to the concentration camps or the forced labor facilities. As I speak, Muslim Uyghur women are forced to marry atheist Han Chinese men. A recent report details how the government rewards Han Chinese men with money, housing, and the jobs for such forced marriages. If Uyghur Muslim women refuse such a forced marriage, she and her entire family will be sent to the camp under the charges of being radicalized Muslim who did not want to marry non-Muslim Han Chinese. I am going to read a slightly censored quote from one of the former inmates who experienced hell while she was detained. Quote, "They had an electric stick. I didn't know what it was, and it was pushed inside my private body part, torturing me with an electric shock," unquote. This is a testimony from one witness, Tursnai Ziawuddin, and there has been 4 more witness testimonies similar to this. I pray for every single woman who is now detained, one of whom is my own sister, Gulshan. In September 2018, on a panel in Washington, D.C., I spoke about the CCP's mass detention of Uyghurs, including that of my husband's entire family. 6 days later, my own sister, Dr. Gulshan Abbas, was abducted as a hostage. My advocacy was done in a free country, in America, but my sister, a retired medical doctor living in China, has been paying the price with her freedom for over 4 years now. We have not received any proof of life. When the Uyghur women are facing such a brutality, where are the feminists, the activists who fought for women's rights? Where is the Muslim world? Just last month, the UN Human Rights Council vote did not pass on a motion that would continue the conversation to hold the Chinese regime accountable for crimes against humanity. A vote only to have a conversation on their report. Many Muslim majority countries voted no and sided with the genocidal Chinese regime. To be silent to the oppressor is to be complicit in the oppression. The suffering of Uyghur Muslims should be the concern of Muslims everywhere. As our beloved Prophet taught us, the Ummah is one body, and if one limb is hurting, the rest of the body should feel it. While the Uyghur Muslims are being amputated from that body, we were left alone. The Chinese regime is challenging the human dignity and the basic survival rights that Allah gave us with our birth. If the silence continues, if there is no action to stop this horrendous atrocity, it will be the beginning of darkness for accountable democracies. Right before our eyes, totalitarian governments are strengthening their capacity to utilize mass surveillance and repression to instill fear at home and abroad. Today, I invite you to join us in our fight to defend Islam, to defend humanity, defend our community, and the future of democracy. If you think that your voice will not make a difference, or that you don't know where to begin here today. We will give you the resources and help you build your own platform to enable your community to act against the genocide that's happening now. We are your Muslim brothers and sisters of the Ummah, and we are calling on you to help for years. How will you respond? Thank you so much for your time and listening. And I'm looking forward to your questions at the Q&A session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Rushan Abbas. Such a fruitful speech, I think. She talks about genocide crimes against Uyghur Muslim women, especially about forced marriage, about public humiliation. I think it's a bit so terrible because like public humiliation is such kind of make a trauma of someone. Okay, now we are going to the third panelist. She is Mrs. Yasmin Busran Lau. Hello, Mrs. Yasmin Busran Lau. Are you there?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Can you hear me?
Okay. Mrs. Yasmin Busran Lau is a co-founder and chairperson Nisa Ul-Haqq Bangsamoro, Philippines. Okay. And it's turn to speak. Please. The time is yours.
Yes. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. I would like to share the experiences of Muslim women in the Philippines, particularly in the Bangsamoro. And the slides, next slide please. This is about two contexts, the political context and the socio-cultural and religious context. In the political context, I would like to say that the Bangsamoro or the Muslim Filipinos have been struggling for, have been having armed struggle for many centuries for right to self-determination. And there are two phases in this struggle. First is the almost 500 years of colonialism that led to the minoritization of the Muslims in Mindanao, in our homeland, and also gave birth to a deeply seated discrimination and bias against the Muslims by the majority Christian Filipinos. Second is the 15 years of martial law imposed by former President Marcos Sr. that gave birth to two Moro rebellious group. One is the Moro National Liberation Front, and the other one is the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, that led to the signing of these two groups in 1996 and in 2014, and the birth of the Bangsamoro autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao. Now, next slide, please. What was the strategies adopted? The Muslim Filipinos adopted first solidarity building, networking, and interfaith collaboration by nationalizing and internationalizing the Bangsamoro cause. By nationalizing, we mean we made our cause a national issue. It is not only the issue of the Bangsamoro or Muslim Filipinos, but we made it as a national issue affecting the entire country. Second is internationalization. First is making our cause a Muslim Ummah issue that attracted the participation of Libya, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, Southeast Asian nations. And we also made it as a human rights issue, that the involvement of the UN, EU, UK, and other nations. Next slide, please. The Also the people's involvement in peace building at all levels. First, it's important that we involve all the people of Mindanao, the Muslim, the non-Muslim indigenous people, and the settlers. There is grassroots mobilization for peace. There is civic actions by the civil society organizations and the participation of the women in the formal peace negotiating table. Next slide, please. Now, this is an example of mobilization by the women, Muslim, Christians, and indigenous people, drawing national attention to the war in Mindanao. Next slide, please. This is an important slide. This is a all-women contingent civilian protection component wherein these women monitor the ceasefire. As we are talking in Kuala Lumpur in the peace table, we have to ensure that peace is going on the ground. And so therefore, these women are monitoring the ceasefire. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the most important network of women, national network of women composing of Muslim, Christians, and indigenous people that is in the forefront of peace building and ensuring that the peace process moves forward. Next slide, please. This is the picture of the women who participated in the peace talks in Kuala Lumpur. The three women are, the first woman there is the Minister on Peace Process. The second is the woman chair of the peace panel and myself as a member. And then there are women who were all in the process, like the head of the secretariat was a woman, the head of the legal team was a young Muslim woman, and also the committees, there were all women, there were women members, including the chair of the normalization committee. Next slide, please. And this is the picture of women on both sides. The woman with the white hijab is the lone woman in the rebel group peace panel, and the six women, the two are also member of the panel for the rebel group. The three, myself and the chair and the co-chair of the normalization committee, and of course also Emma Leslie, who is the member of the international contact group. Next slide, please. Then this is the final moment of the negotiation when we signed the comprehensive agreement of the Bangsamoro, which marked Miriam Coroner Ferrer as the world's first woman chief negotiator to have signed a major peace agreement. Next slide, please. This is the launching in the palace in Malacanang in front of the international community, finally sealing the conflict in Mindanao with the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro. Next slide, please. Now, this is a peace process does not end with the signing of an agreement. It is just the beginning of a peace building. And so therefore, to ensure that the peace agreement becomes a reality, there is a need to make it into a national law. And so these young women are on the streets again, lobbying for the passage of the Bangsamoro Organic Law. Next slide, please. And these are the Christian, indigenous people, and Moro women lobbying in the House of Representatives and doing community consultations for the support on the passage of the organic law. Next slide, please. This is also lobbying at the Senate with the women, Muslim women, Christians, and Lumad. Next slide, please. And these are the women who participated in the drafting of the organic law, the Bangsamoro Transition Commission. And then after the creation of the Bangsamoro government, there is this transition authority where women became appointed as part of the parliament, who are now tasked in crafting and creating the Bangsamoro government by making laws. Next slide, please. That is me just recently a month ago presenting the WEAC's position on the electoral code, where we are pushing for the participation of at least 40 to 50% of women in political parties for the election in 2025. Next slide, please. An important component of the agreement is the transitional justice. And we are participating in the creation of a national law for the transitional justice. Next slide, please. And it is important that we involve the young generation who were not alive before. So therefore, an intergenerational dialogue of women is important for these young girls to internalize and understand the historical injustice that happened in the past. Next slide, please. The gaps is that the sustaining the gains of the peace process. The peace is very fragile. There are still spoilers for peace, and we have to be vigilant. Second is the full implementation of the peace agreement, because if it is not fully implemented, then war will happen again. Particularly for women are the gender provisions in the law. The continuing and deepening solidarity through national conversations. We still need the support of the majority Christians to continue the peace process. Strengthening and increasing women's meaningful participation at all levels, and also culturally and gender responsive emergency and humanitarian support for women who are internally displaced in the evacuation centers during armed conflict and during times of calamities. Next slide, please. On the cultural and religious context, we did feminist reading of the Quran and Hadith, and therefore it became also an inspiration for the creation of our organization Al-Mujadila, and for Nisa Ul-Haqq, fighting for the provision in the Code of Muslim Personal Law, which is the Philippine Family Law for Muslims in the Philippines. Next slide, please. The conduct of researches for evidence-based advocacy on early marriage, female genital mutilation, gender snapshots of the experiences of women in the evacuation center, lobby for the amendment of the Code of Muslim Personality specifically on the age of marriage, to increase the age of marriage, lobby to end child early and forced marriages. Just recently in 2021, the passage of a national law was done, which is an act prohibiting the practice of child marriage and imposing penalties for violations. Next slide, please. Now, this is the last slide, and these are the challenges to this. Persistent patriarchal cultural and interpretation and practices of Islam it's very deep. It's difficult to engage and stop one at a time. It's a long process. The lack of space for religious leadership among women ulama here in the Philippines, they are almost invisible. And most importantly, with the law that I have mentioned, there is now an ongoing, very strong negative reaction on the law on ending child marriage by the majority of the Muslims on three grounds. One is that they said that the increase of marriage at 18 is a violation of the Sunnah, where specifically referring to Aisha's age, which they believe is at the age of puberty. In the law, there is imprisonment and fines of parents, imam, and solemnizing officer and other people involved in the marriage of a girl below 18. And so they are questioning why you are imprisoning the parents and the imam. Third is they believe that this law encourages zina or premarital sex and the birth of illegitimate children by increasing the age of sexual consent at 16 years but prohibiting marriage. In the law, girls are 16 years old are considered to have sexual consent to have sex, but they are prohibited by the law to get married. And so they are questioning this to be against Islam and against Muslim. So definitely with all of this, there is a need for broader inclusive consultation on the law, particularly among the cross sectors of the Muslim community, particularly adolescent girls whose lives are the ones at stake. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to a very meaningful question and answer discussion. Assalamualaikum.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Yasmin Busran Lau, such a presentation, especially for Bangsamoro. As we know, they are as a minority in Philippines, but they try to make a peace building, to make a dialogue, and political participation, cultural and religion reform for women rights. It's such a great movement, I think, even they are minority in Philippines. Now we are going to the fourth speaker, Mrs. Nur Ismah. She is a director of the Research Institute and Community Research Service and Development of Nahdlatul Ulama University in Yogyakarta. Okay, it's your turn.
Thank you, Bu Nadia. Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to extend my deepest sympathy to our sisters in Iran and also from Uyghur China and Mindanao. And secondly, I want to clarify that although I'm here now speaking on behalf of KUPI, but what I'm going to share is merely my own opinion and also reflections based on my Ph.D. research titled Women Issuing Fatwas, Female Islamic Scholars, and Community-Based Authority in Java, Indonesia. And because I only have 10 minutes, so I limit my presentation only on 4 points. First is the formation of KUPI and the first conference, and then supporting factors of KUPI, and challenges and strategies, and also some development. So let's start with a flashback about the formation of KUPI and the first conference. KUPI movement did not appear all of a sudden. Instead, it emerged from a long history of Islamic feminist mobilization in Indonesia and in the context of the influence of global feminism. One important effort of the mobilization is the building of intellectual movement through education and training for Muslim women leaders since the 1980s, conducted by Indonesian Muslim women's NGOs. For example, we have P3M, or the Center for Pesantren and Community Development, in which one of our senior, which is Mbak Liz Marcus, was also involved, and she initiated, with P3M, the expansion of alternative and progressive interpretation of Islam, women's rights, and democracy. The three organizations that established KUPI for the first time, which were Rahima, Fahmina, and Alimat, the founders of these NGOs are all intellectually connected to the progressive intellectual movement as alumni of the P3M program in particular. Now we are moving to supporting factors. I said that KUPI was formally established through a large conference that involved more than 1,000 participants. I'd like to highlight some enabling factors that support the event. So firstly, there is solid cooperation between each actor involved in preparing the event and also providing financial support. I quote from Dr. Nur Rafi'ah, one of the leading figures of KUPI. She called the actors involved social support or dukungan sosial. The social support was also evident in the cooperation between the various institutions involved, including Aman, Gus Durian, Islamic State Universities. This time is with Walisongo State University. Likewise, KUPI participants come to Cirebon or tomorrow to Jepara voluntarily and finance their own travel. Secondly, the common need and aim that move the actors as well as the participants to build the solidarity to overcome the problems and achieve the goal. To explain why this movement or KUPI movement emerged, we know that Indonesia is the most populated Muslim country and the home of two largest mass organizations, which are Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah, but conservative and radical Muslim groups also exist. Their interpretation of Islamic texts tend to be biased and position women as less valued than men. Islamic texts with their way of understanding are being used to blame the victim of violence. They do some practices that are claimed as sunnah, for example, polygamy, female genital mutilation or cutting, and then child marriage, and promote them through any media massively. At the same time, men have been dominated the rules of ulama and of issuing fatwas, especially when we look at the form of fatwa making in Indonesia. But at the grassroots, actually, there are many Muslim women who take up roles as ulama, and they give fatwa for their community or jama'ah. They are not considered as ulama because they are women, and their fatwa is not considered as legitimate. Another reason is the need of Islamic framework and approach to study and interpret Islamic texts that are progressive toward gender equality, not only for Muslim activists, but also secular activists, to deal with biased interpretation on Islamic texts that often being used to justify gender-based violence. Thirdly, KUPI succeeded in drawing attention and convincing participants to come because it was in Cirebon. KUPI was the first Congress of women ulama in Indonesia and offered a platform for mobilizing supporters of gender-just ideas. Besides, KUPI also provides a framework that can be used as a weapon to advocate gender justice. The strategies are to propose the concept of keadilan hakiki and mubadalah, also ma'ruf, the concept of ma'ruf, and also popularizing and redefining the term of ulama perempuan. Fourthly, I see that there is an important role of the leading figures who play an important role as models, committee leaders, and think tank intellectuals to inspire and mobilize its participants. So I classify the leading figures into three. First is charismatic leaders, as we can see from the figure of Kiai Hussein Muhammad, and then representative of organizations involved in KUPI. We can see from, for example, Ibu Ruby, and lastly, intellectual leadership. Maybe we can see from the figure of Kiai Fakihuddin Abdul Qadir and Mbak Nurfia, and also Ibu Badriah Fayumi. I move to the challenges and strategies. Some challenges emerge in the process of establishment of KUPI. I classify the challenges into two. First is internal challenges related to individual condition and the process of building network and solidarity between the individuals or elements involved in KUPI. For example, the difficulty that Muslim women leaders have in referring to themselves as ulama. This psychological barrier is influenced by the social and common understanding of the concept of ulama, and which is still biased toward men. There are doubt that women can be ulama and issue fatwas, and to some extent, this has challenged the effort. And the example of, I think we can move to the, do I still have time? Okay, one more minute. Okay, let's move to the second challenge, which is external challenge that are related to institutional power relations between KUPI as a platform for the female ulama movement, and also intellectual power relation in the field of fatwa making. As a strategy, KUPI's committee then decided to apply the structure employed by the established fatwa institutions in Indonesia regarding adillah or sources of the fatwa, which are Quran, Hadith, Aqwalul Ulama, with the addition of the Indonesian constitutions. The other foundation, namely women's experiences and the international constitutions, they regarded them as a perspective in the process of the analysis of Adila. And lastly, some changes and developments we can see, like for example, regarding the confidence of women ulama. We can sense that now they are more confident. Okay. So you can see on the slide, for example, the presence of ulama perempuan, we can see almost in every group, and also the consolidation among stakeholders. And two other positive development that KUPI has done related to the legislation of law and regulation in Indonesia. And lastly, related to international collaboration and women's solidarity. Okay, I will leave it here. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Such kind of new information for me, especially about KUPI, about the format, supporting factor, challenges, and strategies, how KUPI run this organization, something like that. Okay, okay. And the last speaker, we are now going to David Kloos. Kloos or Kloos? Is it
Kloos?
Kloos, okay. Okay. He is a researcher at the Royal Netherlands Institute of Southeast Asian and Caribbean Studies, KITLV, in Leiden, Netherlands. And the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Selamat sore, malam, hampir malam. Saya berharap ibu-ibu dan bapak-bapak masih tahan ya. Kita sudah capek, lapar, haus. Jadi saya akan coba cepat-cepat. Terima kasih banyak kepada UIN Walisongo untuk memfasilitasikan kepada Ibu Dwi Rubianto, Ibu Nyai Badria dan pengelolaan KUPI ya, Kang Faki, No Ismah untuk undangan dan kepada peserta semua. Thank you everyone for all the participants. And I want to say, like Ismah, that my thoughts are with the brave activists in Iran and East Turkmenistan and Mindanao for the truly hard battles that they are fighting. I would like to share some thoughts. Is there a PowerPoint? I thought there was a... No, without PowerPoint maybe. Oh, there it is. I will share some thoughts with you with regard to recent trends within the Islamic women's movement in Muslim Southeast Asia. And as an anthropologist, I will focus on the sociological basis. So it's communications rather than its theological basis or methods. Others are much more versed to do that. Islamic feminism as a mode of activism and thought emerged in the 1980s and 90s as in the midst of a global surge of political Islam. Ziba Merosaini has aptly called it Islamism's unintended effect, as the Islamist movement helped to create a space in which Muslim women could reconcile their faith and identity with a struggle for gender equality. Islamic feminism has long been a cosmopolitan, scholarly, intellectual movement. Therefore, academic overviews of the Islamic feminist movement often read as intellectual genealogies of scholar activists, such as Amina Wadud, Fatima Mernissi, Asma Barlas, Saina Anwar. And these overviews emphasize places like South Africa, the United States, Malaysia, revealing that the primary language of Islamic feminism is English, with the notable exception, of course, of Fatima Mernissi, who wrote in French. The Islamic feminist movement was always more radical than many secular feminist movements in the sense that they tended to be less reluctant to try and achieve equality in the private realm, within families, behind closed doors. But because of its makeup, the impact of the movement has always been limited in several ways. As Margot Badran has argued, secular feminism was always, please don't, we're not at that slide yet. Secular feminism was always a movement feminism. There's a nice quote here from Badran, it exploded on the scene as social movements. Islamic feminism, on the contrary, originated as an intellectual or ijtihadic project of articulating a coherent model of an egalitarian Islam. But for a long time, it didn't reach much further. And I would claim that this was still the case in Indonesia when Islamic feminist discourse began to influence activists here. So what we are seeing is an intellectual history with a relatively limited social basis. But there's good reason to believe that this is changing. In recent decades, the movement has become more localized and by consequence more diverse. And this comes with opportunities and advantages, but it also comes with tensions and compromises. So focusing on Southeast Asia, I will tell you when we go to the next slide. Focusing on Southeast Asia, I would like to discuss two arenas in which changes are taking place. One is a more expanded context for Islamic juristic authority, specifically the authority women ulama are able to claim to interpret Islamic law, of which KUPI is a primary example. And the second arena bears on the contest for mass-mediated popular authority, particularly through the rise of women popular preachers, or celebrity preachers. Now, these celebrity preachers are often considered a conservative force hostile to the progressive project of Islamic feminism, but they too occasionally spread views that may be considered feminist, and it is important to recognize this, for they may be allies. So the contest for juristic authority. The slide has been lost, it doesn't matter. In contrast to the cosmopolitan and elitist milieus that have characterized Muslim feminist networks elsewhere, KUPI has tried to develop a language, a methodology, and a set of concrete issues that resonates with Indonesian context. And Ismah has just explained all about this. She has also explained that this comes with challenges, and one of these is a quite fundamental challenge or fundamental tension between different views of what constitutes religious authority. KUPI opens up the concept of alim ulama. For the 2017 conference, the committee defined ulama as, quote, people with deep knowledge, who are fearful of God, who have a noble personality, who do meritorious work, who uphold justice, and who serve the benefit of all creation. This is a very inclusive definition, and there has been concern, understandably, I think, among some classically trained scholars in the KUPI network, that it dilutes the authority that ulama have been able to claim within local communities. And this is to some extent ironic in the sense that after almost 80 years in which women ulama have battled for claiming the right to be ulama within institutions like the pesantren, within the Islamic feminist movement, they are being equated to activists and others in their authority, and that comes with friction. Now let me move to another field of tension. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yes. Let me move to another field of tension, namely the contest for popular mass-mediated religious authority. In the wake of the Islamic revival, celebrity preachers have emerged as influential religious authorities guiding ordinary Muslims in their spiritual and religious endeavors. These preachers rely on modes of authority that are quite different from the judicial claims of the Islamic feminist movement. Most of them are trained in Islamic sciences, but their expertise, importantly, also includes powerful communication. In Malaysia, and this is Dr. Salida Sohaila from Malaysia, women celebrity preachers tend to cultivate a soft and modest feminine style. A key field of attention is the household, emphasizing the roles of women as wives and mothers. These features strengthen the common perception among progressive or feminist groups that these preachers are primarily a conservative force. But we have to be cautious, I think, in drawing a very sharp line between progressive and conservative groups. When we break down the impact preachers make in different spheres of life, the situation turns out to be more nuanced. And let me give one example of this. Next slide, please. Next slide. Ustaza Fatimah Sharha is part of a generation of young women celebrity preachers that emerged in the 2000s. Her popularity was based on her work as a creative writer. Her books combine fiction, theology, autobiography, teen lit, and self-help into compelling guides of pious practice and professional ambition. And what I find very intriguing about this particular example is that it is very hard to characterize her as either conservative or progressive. She is a champion of conservative virtues such as cinta lepas nikah, or love after marriage, an ideal that redefines youthful courtship by encouraging minimal physical contact between prospective partners and by arguing that true love in line with the requirements of Islamic law can only develop after marriage. At the same time, she folds these conservative ideals into a forceful critique of religious interpretations that limit women's autonomies.
One minute left.
Yeah, so I can conclude. Specifically within marriage. In her books and preaching, she instills her youthful audience with the importance of acquiring Islamic knowledge and awareness, including, for instance, the need for women to demand special provisions in their marriage contract, called taklik, and thus to protect themselves against undesirable situations such as polygamous marriages, which are increasingly trendy in both Malaysia and Indonesia. I'm concluding. A very brief conclusion. For the Islamic feminist movement to become more broadly acceptable and to resonate with ordinary Muslim women's concerns, it needs to cultivate modes of authority beyond the more or less secularized, safe, comfortable, scholarly intellectual approach to Islam on which it was originally based. That means accepting new subject positions, but this is a process riddled with tension. When does it mean embracing these positions? When does it mean appropriating these positions at the cost of other groups? When does it work to strengthen positions of authority? When does it lead to an inflation of terms such as ulama or ustaza? And these, I think, are major questions at the heart of the Islamic women's movement today and KUPI in particular. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kloos. Kloos, okay. Kloos, not Kloos. Okay, okay. Such an interesting topic about dynamic among women in Southeast Asia, especially in Aceh. Okay. Oh, okay, thank you. And then, ladies and gentlemen, ibu bapak yang berbahagia, I think it's the time for Q&A session, but I think the time is limited, maybe about 10 or 15 minutes. And Q&A session will be guided by Ibu Yunianti. Okay, Ibu, time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I just got information from the organizer that we only have limited time. So they asked me to raise triggered question. Okay, so hopefully 3 of speakers still with us. My question is, what is the most strategic role of KUPI that possibly contribute to solve this multi-layers of discrimination and oppression happen in those 4 countries? Are you still with us? Professor Homa, Rushan?
Yes,
Yasmin?
I'm here. Yes.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yasmin,
Yes.
can you hear my question?
Yes.
Hello? We can hear your voice. Excuse me, the organizer. Okay,
Yes.
so
Can you hear
Yasmin,
me?
Okay, you could start with this context, especially with the operation happen in your country. Do you think KUPI as a women, ulama, Indonesia has strong power to influence or to make strategic change with the conflict in your country? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. As a background, I would like to say that Nisa Ul-Haqq, Bangsamoro, and Al-Mujadila benefited much from the sessions we have with Fakiuddin Abdul Qadir, with the Rahima Pahmina. We have invited them in the Philippines, specifically to talk to the Sharia practitioners, lawyers, and ulama, men and women in the country several years ago. And we saw that as a very important strategy in the rereading, specifically of the Quran and with Fakiuddin, with the Hadith, on the family law, on the increasing of the age of marriage, on our advocacy on the stopping the practice of child marriage and forced marriages. So I believe it is a very strategic, and we are looking very much looking forward to further engagement and deepening conversation with KUPI. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It means KUPI had concrete contribution how to share knowledge, especially translating Sharia to make a peaceful for women's rights in the context of under the conflict in Mindanao. Thank you very much. Ibu Homa from Iran.
Yes.
Yes.
I actually, thank you very much.
Please.
I hope that it's past 5 in the morning here, and I'm a bit sleepy, but I would like to make some suggestion. I think it's very important to pass on the knowledge, but also it's important because Indonesia is as the most populous country, Muslim country. Their statement is important. It's not enough for ulama, women ulama to go and pass knowledge, but I think also on political issues such as which is related to women, they should make a statement, and they should make a statement publicly, because this would enable women who are, say, if you make a statement about situation of education in Afghanistan, or the fact that compulsory hijab is not accepted in Islam, this kind of thing would encourage and empower people who are in the context and they are struggling, because it gives them a voice, a power, knowing that there are support outside the national boundaries, and that's a very important factor. And I think in some way, ulama in Indonesia have had that power for some years at least, so decades, but they have really used this to promote gender justice in other Muslim contexts, and I think that is important aspect, not to wait just to be invited to help, but also to make a statement. After all, Ummah is a global context. We should not allow the national boundaries to stop us. There's a difference between ulama and the government. Government may not want to interfere in other governments' affairs, but in some way, ulama are part of the Muslim Ummah everywhere. So they should use that privilege and power to support their sisters' struggle elsewhere. And I feel that we haven't, at least in Indonesia, have not always been willing to make that kind of a statement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Hopefully, if probably you noticed that Indonesia, some of women's movement already responding the issues of Iran through many conference, open mic, and also solidarity. I agree with you about feminist solidarity around the world. Thank you very much. Okay, I would like to invite from Uyghur.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, this is a very vital question. Can you hear me? Yes. It is a very vital question, and it's extremely important for us because the Chinese communist regime is winning with this genocide and also making this genocide a profitable venture with using your Muslim Uyghur brothers and sisters' blood, sweat, and the tears on the forced labor products that they're using the Uyghurs as the modern slaves. So it's extremely important to amplify the information you heard and push back the Chinese government's false narratives, disinformation. They're winning in the Muslim majority countries and in Indonesia, Malaysia, and everywhere because not many people know about what's happening to Uyghurs. When I heard one priest in Florida, he said he was going to burn one copy of Holy Quran when he said that he didn't even burn. He said he was going to burn on Facebook. Entire Muslim world went on the streets and protested. Well, the Chinese government is burning the millions of copies of Quran. Not only that, they are burning Uyghur Muslims. Crematorias are being built where mostly the Uyghurs populated areas and as well as next to the concentration camps. You know that we are Muslims. We don't cremate bodies. Those are the warning signs. But we are not seeing the support because the Ummah, our Muslim brothers and sisters, the international community, they are all being the victims of China's disinformation. So as Ms. Homa mentioned earlier, sending a statement, releasing a statement on the Uyghur issue is extremely important. Okay. Sending a statement to Organization for Islamic Cooperation, sending a statement to the leaders of the Muslim world, Muslim majority countries, and as well as to Indonesian government. And to be the voice for those voiceless people is extremely important. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So your information and your presentation is really first-hand information because the information about Uyghur mostly coming from, let's say, from the most political voices. So this is very important. This is from really, truly from women's voices and also experience. Thank you, Rushan. Hopefully what happened in Uyghur, we pray together will, getting better and, the world hearing your country, your experience, and also stop violence in your country. Okay. Ibu Ismah and Bapak David, do you have any idea how to solve this, problem, not only in Indonesia, but also how KUPI responding many issues around the world, especially Muslim countries?
Yeah. According to my opinion, I think the idea of community-based authority can be applied not only in the local level, which involve female ulama and jama'ah, and in the national level, which is among the female ulama, but also in the international levels. So in the international levels, KUPI can be one of the maybe platform that build solidarity with other women's movement around the world, and but how to apply this community-based authority in the international level still need further discussion within the women's movement and also women's group. Yeah.
Okay, Bapak David, from ASEAN perspective.
Yeah, I tried to be very quick, and I was about to say something very similar to Ismah, so that's easily. I think that KUPI can be incredibly important internationally as a model for synchronizing perspectives between perspectives of transnational activism, religious scholarship, and moral leadership at the community level. There's very few examples, I think, of this around the world, and it's fantastic to see how this is being developed, this vernacular feminism, this grassroots level feminism. The final thing what I want to add to it is that what is very important, I think, about KUPI is it's presenting itself as a movement and not an organization. An organization immediately, of course, organization is also part of it, but an organization, a persatuan, yeah, that immediately becomes political, it becomes hierarchical, and it becomes limited in spoke and clunky. And once you have presented as a movement that many people, different layers, can feel part of and contribute to, that is, it's more dynamic, it's more flexible, it is less risky to become very politicized also. So I think that is very important, and that's something that can also be applied in other places. And it can also become transnational. A movement can also become transnational. Of course, KUPI is part of a transnational movement already. So I think that's a very crucial aspect of it.
Thank you very much. Big applause for them, okay, for these all speakers. Thank you very much. I would like to, bring some conclusion that first, based on this based on the presentation from 5 speakers, we noticed that Muslim women struggling at many levels or many layers. They are struggling the right as a woman, as a Muslim, as a citizens, and as to gain the freedom of state. And from this lesson learned from 5 speakers, that democracy and human rights contribute to bring guarantee for better women and happy Muslim. From Iran experience and also Uyghur and also in the Philippines, that women's and experiencing one moment that in Iran they try to negotiate autonomy and also and democracy and also freedom. And the main also remaining question among us, how far women experience become as a strategic gate to transform the democracy, the conflict in many other countries. And we also, from this seminar, we got information that body politic become a target of repression to control and to defeat in many, especially in the context of the conflict. And from voices in several conflict areas, there is the urgency of global women's solidarity and also the role of feminist ulama. The other speakers also mentioned about KUPI has a strategic role and can become role model, not only sharing knowledge or production of knowledge production, but KUPI expected become a movement, transnational movement, especially to respond the dehumanization in many other Islamic countries and also to the world. This is my short conclusion. Thank you very much. Again, on behalf of moderator, Ibu Nadia and me, Yunianti Huzaifa, thanks a lot to the very illuminating presenter from Iran and also from Uyghur, from Mindanao, from Holland, and also from Indonesia, Ismah. Thank you very much, and I will give, I will close this conversation. And again, big applause for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would like to call Nyai Hajah Badriah Fayumi LCMA and Professor Dr. Mohsin Jamil MAK to deliver the token of appreciations for our speakers. And our speakers and moderators, would you mind to stay here? Yeah. Once again, I would like to call Nyai Hajah Badriah Fayumi LCMA and Professor Dr. Mohsin Jamil MAK to help us deliver the token of appreciation for our last speakers and our last moderators for today's plenary session. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the end of our program in the second KUPI International Conference. Silakan. Yep. And as the program is coming to end, and it's time for me to leave. Thank you for accompanying me the whole afternoon, and I hope you learned a lot with today's conference. I would like to introduce you to the most popular entertainment in Indonesia, which is a stand-up comedy. And today, a stand-up comedy performance will be brought to you by Sa'dia Ma'ruf. Sa'dia is Indonesia's first Muslim female stand-up comic taking the stage to promote gender equality. She's laureate of Howell Prize for Creative Designs in 2015 and one of BBC 100 Women 2018. I'm Vina dari Soraya, and I'm very honored to be here to be part of the second KUPI International Conference. Let's welcome with the warmest applause, Sa'dia Ma'ruf.
Hello, it's me again. Yes, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. What a day. Yes, it has been one of the most inspiring, empowering day in my life. Amazing. I can feel the energy of all women ulamas, women's activists in the room, men who are very, very supportive. Big round of applause to all of us. Yes, like the only thing that stopped me from crying throughout the session is that my mascara has to last until closing. So I still have to host, so I cannot cry because then my fake eyelashes will fall. And you will know that it's all fake, you know? You see, I feel so seen and so hurt by everyone's remarks and analysis. I know firsthand that it's not easy for women's leader to lead the way. Working in my profession, I receive comments like, "You are such an embarrassment to Islam." Muslim women performing, "I will be happy to see you burned in hell." I said, hold on. If you can see me burned in hell, there's only two scenarios. Number one, you are an angel guarding the hell, which is impossible. Number two, you are in hell with me. Yes? So let's just wish that everyone is going to heaven, shall we? Another thing, I saw your video. Such a shame. I can see your undergarment. One of those internet troll comments. I can see your undergarment. I thought, under these layers? What kind of app are you using? The advancement of X-ray? I'm like, but hold on. You said that you saw my video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, yes. We call it in Indonesia, haters, yang penting engagement. Yeah. It's okay for people to hate. The most important thing is you like and subscribe. You know, social media doesn't know the difference, right? And then, you know, as a Muslim woman, hijabis, I often talk about my struggle. Yeah, my struggle and my story since I was a child, wearing hijab and not, and wearing it again. You know, my struggle. And then when I went down from the stage, a woman came to me. And she said, "Are you really a Muslim? You are corrupting our movement. We are promoting this and that. Why are you telling people about your struggle?" And as a brave person that I am, I look at her in the eye and I said, "Ma'am, please, my daughter is waiting. You know, if you don't believe that women are supposed to speak up, why are you asking me questions? This is my husband's phone number. You know why I'm doing this? Based on what you believe, women can do anything they want. In akhirah, husband responsible." Yes, that's why I'm doing comedy and this and that you consider wrong. It's okay. My husband will be responsible. Oh my God. Yes, it's not easy at all. On the other side of the spectrum, sometimes performing abroad, yeah, people are like, "Oh my God, Muslim stand-up comedian wearing hijab, very brave." Oh. You are a Muslim from Indonesia, life must be hard out there. I thought, yes, when I asked permission from my father to kiss my boyfriend. That's going to be very, very hard. But I did. I kissed my boyfriend by marrying him first. Yeah. Yes. Oh, you speak such good English. I don't know, CNN, MTV, colonialism? You don't remember? Questions like this are also coming, from different people, different groups. Bahasa Indonesia ya, Bu? Ya. Bahasa Indonesia ya. Saya tuh kalau jalan kemana-mana tuh suka dibilang gitu, "Mbak Arab ya?" Iya. Terus habis gitu saya bilang iya. Terus saya ditanya, "Mbak, kalau orang Arab tuh nikahnya harus sama Arab juga ya?" Saya bilang, orang Arab, orang Jawa, orang Minang, orang Padang, orang Papua, orang manapun nikahnya harus sama orang baik. Orang baik tuh yang kayak apa sih, Mbak? Orang baik tuh yang kayak apa? Orang baik itu yang gak bilang sama istrinya, "Dek ya, kamu itu harus cantik, glowing, langsing, dan harus mau diajak miskin." Nah itu. Itu persoalan. Aduh. Persoalan itu harus cantik, langsing, glowing, harus mau diajak miskin. Loh, glowing itu ada ongkosnya kok. Seharian itu ada ongkosnya. Seharian itu mendengarkan women's lived experience, ya. Pengalaman perempuan ini, mumpung banyak ibu-ibu, saya mau cerita pengalaman saya melahirkan. Wah, pokoknya kalau di agama itu dibilang wahnan ala wahnin itu betul sekali. Betul. Pengalaman saya melahirkan. Ini punya anak perempuan 1. Waktu saya melahirkan tuh semua alhamdulillah udah sehat walafiat. Jadi sama dokternya itu saya ditinggal sama bidan magang. Magang. Pas saya bernafas itu ya, bidannya itu bilang, "Bu, dari suara ibu, saya itu bisa tahu, Bu, ibu itu mengejarnya dari tenggorokan bukan dari perut." Saya bilang, "Wah, ini bidan merangkap guru vokal." Tahu banget ini suara tenggorokan, suara perut. Ya. Habis gitu ada orang di sebelah, ya. Orang di sebelah yang sedang berkonsentrasi menemani istrinya melahirkan juga. Oh, bagus Bapak teladan ya kan. Bilang ke saya, Bu minum teh manis biar kuat. Saya bilang, kayaknya terakhir saya ingat biar kuat minum kuku Bima. Aduh, terus saudara sepupu saya masuk, bilang, supaya kamu tidak merasakan kesakitan, coba baca surat At-Tariq. Ya, saya langsung, ya Allah, ampuni hamba ya Allah, surat At-Tariq yang mana ya? Kan maksudnya apa? Dibimbing gitu loh, dibimbing baca bareng gitu. Kalau enggak ya yang gampang aja Al-Fatihah sama Kulhu gitu loh. Ini muka Arab kayak gini dari kecil sampai tua sholatnya cuma Al-Fatihah sama Kulhu. Biar cepet Kulhu aja gitu ya. Aduh, masuk dari biro rohani rumah sakit. Saya pikir memang namanya melahirkan ini urusan hidup dan mati ya. Tapi mbok ya hidupnya dulu yang diurus gitu loh. Kok tahu-tahu sudah ada yang datang mau mendoakan, itu kan saya deg-degan ya Bu ya. Biro rohani rumah sakit. Loh kalau dokter gitu, ini biro rohani rumah sakit. Biro rohani rumah sakit itu mau mendoakan. Saya pikir tuh rame banget. Saya itu biru semua, kehabisan napas, bukan karena mengejan, tapi karena kebanyakan orang. Itu loh, akhirnya saya yang sehat walafiat ini tadinya terpaksa dioperasi karena gagal fokus. Itu loh, women's lived experience. Aduh, dibawa ke ruang operasi. Dengan kesakitan. Saya bilang sama susternya, ini terakhir ya, I have to make it short. Saya bilang sama susternya, suster tolong suster, saya sudah kesakitan, sudah biru semua, ini tangan biru, muka biru kayak gitu. Tolong suster obat biusnya. Apa yang dilakukan oleh suster pertama kali? Mbak pakai jilbab dulu, dokter anestesinya laki-laki. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Terima kasih Mbak. Terima kasih banyak penyegaran yang quick. Just a quick entertainment before Maghrib time ya. So speaking of before Maghrib time, we will continue with the closing ceremony. Yes? Yes. And I would like to call my co-MC Muhammad to come on stage. Woohoo! Ini termasuk laki-laki baik ya, Mas Muhammad ya?
I hope so.
Laki-laki baik yang tidak akan pernah bilang sama calonnya, kamu harus mau diajak miskin ya Mas ya? Okay, thank you so much. I'm waiting for my script. Yes, let's begin insya Allah before Maghrib.
Alright.
Oh sudah ternyata 17.51. Apologies.
Alright, Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Bapak Ibu semuanya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, Sayyidina Nabiyina Muhammad ibn Abdillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa mawala, wa la hawla wa la quwata illa billah. Honorable Rector State Islamic University Walisongo, Professor Dr. Imam Taufik, with all officials of UIN Walisongo Semarang, the Vice Rectors, Deans, Vice Deans, Honorable Advisors of Indonesian Women Ulama Congress, Honorable Board Members of Indonesian Women Ulama Congress, Honorable Organizer of Indonesian Women Ulama Congress, Aman Indonesia, Rahima, Fahmina, Alimat, Gus Durian, and Honorable Host of Indonesian Women Ulama Congress, State Islamic University Walisongo Semarang, and Islamic Boarding School Pondok Pesantren Hasim Ash'ari Jepara.
Yes. Lanjut. Oke.
Alright.
Lanjut.
All right. Before we begin our closing ceremony, we would like to present a musical performance by Galbu Gambus Orchestra. Okay. We shall wait for another minute, probably.
For another minute? Yes.
To prepare.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Jadi, Bu Badria, ya sudah maghrib, kita mau lanjut saja. Baik, nah ini loh Ibu dan Bapak sekalian, ini sekalian kita menyaksikan ya namanya proses live show ini kayak gini nih loh Ibu Bapak. Ya, yes. Loh daripada kelihatan MC-nya tidak rapi ya kan. Ini katanya ini, terus ini kayak gitu kan. Daripada kelihatan MC-nya tidak rapi, mending kita ya memang begini nih. Namanya proses musyawarah. Ya kan? Namanya proses musyawarah, ini mau kita apa dulu? Mau gambus dulu, mau closing dulu. Karena tadi dimintanya closing dulu, kemudian informasi dari belakang gambus dulu. Gak apa-apa, ini namanya musyawarah.
That's right.
Musyawarah kalau live show itu agak berat. Agak berat karena kita harus langsung dan cepat. Terus kalau salah tuh yang salah MC-nya gitu loh Bu. Gitu. Jadi mohon maklumnya ini hasil musyawarah, kita mau closing dulu apa gambus dulu? Jadi Bu Ruby? Ya baik. Kita closing dulu ya. Ini sudah maghrib rasanya tidak elok ya kita bernyanyi pada saat maghrib ya, arahan dari semuanya penyelenggara KUPI. Ibu dan Bapak sekalian, alhamdulillah kita sudah menuju di akhir kegiatan kita ya. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of our international conference today, and to officially close and share a few words about this wonderful and amazing day, I would like to respectfully welcome Director of Aman Indonesia, also representing organizer of KUPI, Ibu Dwi Rubianti Holifa. Please welcome Ibu Ruby.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Pertama, ibu dan bapak sekalian masih semangat ya, waktunya nggak akan lama kok. Kita sebentar saja. Pertama mohon maaf sekali bahwa kita ingin acara ini kita tutup dulu, baru kemudian sholat maghrib dan dinner dan ramah tamah, karena memang tidak akan lama. Jadi kenapa tidak mesti gambus dulu agar nanti tidak terlalu lama. Nanti kita akan mendengarkan musik gambus sambil makan malam. Izinkan saya 5 menit saja untuk memberikan apresiasi kepada sejumlah orang. Sorry, I'm say that we gonna have like very short closing. To thank some of the institutions that already contributing to this event, and I think they deserve appreciation. Let me start with calling, this is on behalf of the Asian Muslim Action Network, as the network that we always appreciation any partners for event or long-term collaboration. And we would like to give appreciation for all the partners here. Number 1 is Alimat. Can I have the representative from Alimat come here? Alimat, Maria Ulfa is here from Alimat. And number 2 from Fahmina Institute, Mas Marzuki mungkin. From Rahima, from Gus Durian, silakan Mas Suraji. From UIN Walisongo, from Musawa, from Sister in Islam, from International Society Action, International Civil Society Action Network, ICANN, Melinda. From Joint Initiative for Strategic Religious Action, JISRA, Stephanie, can you come forward? From UNFPA, please. From UNDP, from UN Women, from AIPJ 2, from IPAS, anyone from IPAS? Anyone that I already called but not show up? Alimat, Mbak Maria, okay. Rahima, okay. UIN, UIN, Pak Rektor, kami ingin memberikan apresiasi sebagai partner aman. Silakan, siapa yang mewakili? Monggo, Pak Wakil Rektor. Baik, silakan teman-teman, kami mengucapkan terima kasih atas dukungan yang tidak terhingga kepada perhelatan International Conference ini. Thank you so much for your contribution and your belief about our work here, and hopefully we can continue in the future for long-term cooperation and building more a bigger movement. Melinda, are you here? From ICANN. From ICANN. Okay, anyway. Oh, itu apa? Itu Fahmina dulu. Oh, Fahmina dulu, maaf. Enggak apa-apa, nanti ditukar. Ini siapa? Gus Durian. Makasih ya. Terima kasih. UNFPA. Hi, Bu Angela. Thank you so much. Yes.
Fantastic.
Doa nanti lihat. Doa tetap, kalau doa tetap. Terima kasih banyak. Kompes Hasim Asyari nggak ada? UNDP. Oh, kebalik tadi. Sini. Enggak, kalau closing sekali ya. Fahmina. Ya. Islam. Thank you so much. Win. Pak, makasih ya. Sudah berbulan-bulan ketemu saya. Iya. Alimat. Oh, Mbak. Makasih. Makasih banyak. Melinda nggak? ICANN is still here, Melinda? Or representing network of ICANN? UN Women here? No. Bukan UN Women. IPJ. Oh, Musawa dulu. Makasih ya. Makasih banyak. IPJ. Oh, Sistra. Oke.
Thanks to Kloos. Congratulations. Good searching day. Wow.
So the rest we're going to deliver later on. Sudah. ICANN, UN Women. Siapa?
Soalnya
Oh, enggak keluar. So, okay, thank you so much, and hopefully meeting you again in the next event and long-term engagement collaboration. Thank you so much. Yes, makasih ya Pak. Ya, makasih. Makasih Ibu.
Thank you so much. Wonderful day. Amazing work you all have done.
Thank you ya.
Yeah. Oh, really, what a great day.
So I just want to say okay. So thank you so much. So I don't want to make a long speech. Thank you for your coming, and then safe trip to Jepara. And for all of you that, some of you that going back to the country, safe trip. And we're looking forward to see you again. Assalamualaikum.
Terima kasih banyak Ibu Dwi Rubianti Holifa, Direktur Aman Indonesia, mewakili penyelenggara KUPI, mengucapkan selamat dengan suksesnya International Conference pada hari ini, dan juga selamat mengikuti Kongres Ulama Perempuan Indonesia kedua besok. Ibu dan Bapak sekalian, bersama-sama kita telah hadir Bapak Rektor UIN Walisongo Semarang, Bapak Profesor Dr. Imam Taufik. Beliau berkenan menyampaikan closing remarks. Kita sambut bersama Bapak Profesor Dr. Imam Taufik.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, la haula wa la quwata illa billah. Amma ba'du. Hadratal muhtaromin, para alim, para ulama ingkang tansah saya hormati. Guru-guru saya, Prof. Mahasin, para pimpinan dari Aman, Alimat, Fahmina, Gus Durian, terus Rahimah yang saya hormati, seluruh peserta, pembicara, moderator, dan juga partisipan aktif yang luar biasa. Atas nama kampus UIN Walisongo Semarang, saya menyampaikan terima kasih luar biasa. Sampai jam sekian ini, jam 6 lebih, peserta tidak berkurang, bahkan bertambah. Luar biasa ini. Beberapa peserta yang ada di parallel session memang tidak hadir di ruangan ini saat pembukaan. Ini menghadiri di sini, dan ini menunjukkan antusiasme dan masa depan KUPI dan program paradigma serta misinya semakin cerah ke depan. Dengan anak-anak muda yang lebih energik, tentu ini akan lebih variatif untuk mengawal kemaslahatan kita semuanya. Kami menyampaikan terima kasih. Mohon maaf yang sebesar-besarnya apabila seharian ibu bapak semuanya di kampus belum mandi seperti saya. Saya sengaja nggak ganti baju, memang menunjukkan belum ganti baju dan belum mandi, seperti Prof. Mahasin. Asli, pakai shot lagi. Nah, dan setelah ini kami mohon persiapan menuju Jepara, menikmati hidangan yang sudah disiapkan oleh teman-teman. Ada bakso, ada sate, ada nasi goreng, ada nasi ruwet, ada nasi uduk, ada wedang ronde, jangan salah harokat, ada wedang ada macam-macam yang ada di samping kiri dan kanan, sambil menikmati galbo musik. Ini musik khas Semarang yang bergaya Umi Kalsum. Menurut saya setelah ini, coba Mas, buktinya kalau antik gimana Mas? Ya. Ya, kita beri aplaus. Gambus musik, galbo musik. Ya, terima kasih sekali lagi. Mudah-mudahan kita selalu diberi kesehatan paripurna oleh Allah Subhanahu wa taala, bisa berkhidmat lebih baik untuk negeri, bangsa dan negara. Matur nuwun. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Masya Allah, Ibu dan Bapak sekalian, kita nanti akan menikmati kembali penampilan dari Galbu Gambus dan tentunya lagu-lagunya akan sangat-sangat banyak dan menyejukkan hati. Untuk mengakhiri kegiatan kita pada hari ini, kami mengundang dengan hormat Ibu Nyai Rokoyah Maksum untuk membacakan doa.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah Sayyidina Muhammad ibn Abdillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa mawalah wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, amma ba'du. Sebelum saya membacakan doa, saya minta izin untuk menyampaikan apresiasi saya terhadap KUPI, di mana Bu Nyai Hajah Bahdriah Fayumi dan seluruh para hadir, para ulama yang saya tidak mungkin menyebutkan satu persatu, tapi tidak mengurangi rasa hormat saya terhadap panjenengan semuanya. Saya merasakan 5 tahun yang lalu saya hadir di acara KUPI 1 di Pondok Pesantren Kebon Jambu yang diasuh oleh Ibu Nyai Masriah Amfa, dan pada saat itu saya diminta untuk menyampaikan testimoni apa yang saya alami beberapa tahun yang lalu. Saya tidak akan pernah malu untuk mengatakan bahwa saya adalah korban KDRT, tetapi dengan adanya teman-teman aktivis perempuan yang ada di Jakarta, saya betul-betul merasakan di saat saya sendiri, jauh dari keluarga, jauh dari teman-teman, tetapi hadir orang-orang yang baik, dihadirkan oleh Allah untuk membantu saya, membangkitkan semangat saya untuk menatap masa depan saya. Saya tidak boleh larut dalam kesedihan dan musibah serta ujian yang saya hadapi, tetapi saya harus terus bangkit, dan ini adalah motivasi dari para teman-teman semuanya, terutama para ulama, baik laki-laki maupun perempuan yang menjadi satu wadah dalam KUPI 1 5 tahun yang lalu. Kalau KUPI kedua ini tidak ada yang testimoni orang yang mengalami KDRT, alhamdulillah, tapi bukan berarti tidak ada perempuan atau belum 100% perempuan mengalami KDRT dan ketidakadilan. Tetapi apa yang saya lakukan, apa yang saya terima, motivasi saya sebarkan, saya kuatkan diri saya dulu. Bagaimana saya bisa untuk mengajak perempuan-perempuan lain berbahagia manakala hati saya sendiri masih menderita. Bagaimana saya bisa menyampaikan apa yang harusnya saya sampaikan kepada perempuan-perempuan untuk selalu mandiri, untuk selalu semangat di dalam memperjuangkan keadilan, kalau saya sendiri belum merasakan apa yang seharusnya saya terima. Karena itulah pada kesempatan kali ini, teman-teman semua yang hadir, baik dari Indonesia maupun dari beberapa 31 negara yang lain yang hadir, mungkin acara ini akan selesai, tetapi kita akan pulang ke rumah masing-masing dan akan bertemu lagi dengan seabrek yang namanya masalah yang dihadapi oleh perempuan. Lalu kita harus bagaimana? Tentu kita tidak hanya tidak akan hanya bicara, tapi kita harus betul-betul menunjukkan bahwa kita sebagai perempuan ingin meniru apa yang sudah diajarkan oleh Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Rasulullah menyampaikan Islam yang rahmatan lil alamin, yang memanusiakan manusia dan memanusiakan perempuan 1.500 tahun yang lalu, bukan hanya untuk masa itu, tetapi untuk masa sekarang dan masa yang akan datang. Karena itulah KUPI akan terus melakukan, berproses, melakukan perubahan untuk kehidupan ke depan yang lebih baik, yang lebih berperadaban dan lebih berkeadilan. Mudah-mudahan apa yang kita niati dari awal dari rumah sampai pulang selesai nanti acara di Jepara, kita akan betul-betul diberi kemampuan untuk mengemban amanah ini sebaik-baiknya, dan tentu kita bersama-sama untuk melakukan perubahan ke arah yang lebih baik. Rabbana la tuzigh qulubana ba'da idh hadaitana wa hab lana min ladunka rahmah innaka antal wahhab. Allahumma ij'alna wa ahlana wa auladana wa dhurriyyatana min ahlil ilmin nafi' wa ahlil khair wa la taj'alna min ahlil jahri wad dunya wad dhair wa ahlid dhalal. Allahumma adhiqna halawatal iman wa amitna ala dinil Islam. Allahumma ij'al hadza jam'ana jam'an marhumah wa tafarruqana min ba'dihi tafarruqan ma'sumah bijahi Sayyidina Muhammadin sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Mudah-mudahan apa yang menjadi niat kita, aktivitas kita, komunitas kita, dan apa yang kita lakukan demi kehidupan yang lebih baik di masa yang akan datang akan betul-betul dimudahkan oleh Allah Subhanahu wa taala, dan ini akan menjadi simpanan pahala jariah untuk kita semua. Amin ya rabbal alamin. Sebelum saya menutup dengan sholawat doa, saya ingin meminta kepada para hadir untuk bertepuk tangan, tetapi dari satu dulu. Bertepuk tangan satu jari dulu. Tepuk tangan satu jari. Tepuk tangan 3 jari. Tepuk tangan 4 jari. Tepuk tangan 5 jari. Apa artinya? Apapun yang disampaikan, apapun yang dilakukan kita, manakala hanya sendiri itu kurang menghasilkan sesuatu yang baik. Berdua, bertiga, berempat, tapi berlima, 5 jari ini adalah macam-macam dari kalangan manapun, dari manapun. Kalau kita bersama-sama menyuarakan untuk sesuatu yang lebih berperadaban dan berkeadilan, insya Allah gaungnya akan lebih besar. Amin ya rabbal alamin. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar. Rabbi khtim lana bi husnil khatimah wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Semoga dengan doa tadi usaha-usaha kita dalam pergerakan-pergerakan kita diberkahi oleh Allah Subhanahu wa taala. Amin ya rabbal alamin. Selanjutnya kita akan mempersembahkan satu musical performance, satu lagu dari Galbu Gambus Orkestra.
وقول يمين سيبني منك ما هو ده فرحي وانت جرحي ما هو ده فرحي وانت جرحي وكله منك اروح لمين واقول يمين سيفني منك سيفني منك
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, before we close this ceremony, allow us to present another traditional dance, Tari Piring, traditionally originated from Minangkabau, West Sumatra province, and now performed by the students of Faculty of Tarbiyah and Education, UIN Walisongo, Semarang. Please welcome
Tari Piring,
Tari
UIN
Piring.
Walisongo, Semarang. Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to an end of the International Conference Indonesian Women Ulama Congress. We are going to continue with the Congress starting tomorrow in Pondok Pesantren Hashim As'ari, Jepara. Before we officially close the ceremony, we would like to express our deepest gratitude for all of your supports and participations, and our deepest, most sincere apologies for any of our shortcomings in welcoming you.
And we would like also to say, may you enjoy the dinner accompanied by musical performance, Galbu Gambus Orchestra. And finally, congratulations to Indonesian Women Ulama Congress, affirming the role of women ulama in creating just civilizations.
I am Sakdia Ma'ruf.
And my name is Muhammad. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Galbu Gambus Orchestra.
خطاب هائم وفراز هائر منك دنا ومن الشوق رسول
Tadi ada yang mau membawakan lagu juga tadi, mana? Mbak atau ibunya tadi? Tidak jadi? Oke.
Monggo Mbak. Ada yang mau bergabung sama Galbu Musik Orkestra? Boleh perkenalan dulu?
Temannya diajak duet, mau? Gimana Mbak? Temannya katanya mau duet. Syufa, Galbu Musik Orkestra.
duet nih masnya nih. Rakot Aina bisa. Ya. Assalamualaikum. Cowok ya? Oke.
Assalamualaikum. Duh, kira ini. Pak Yarja, saya duet sama istrinya Pak Tajudin. Rakot Aina. Separuh ya. Mic-nya satu lagi ada? Ya, banyak. Hah? Tambah satu, Mas. Loh, Mbak Ek ini toh, Mbak? Digampingin, Mbak. Lagu khusus Pak Arja sama Mas Munir. Dan Pak Saroni, Ketua Panitia. Ketua Panitia kita kasih aplaus untuk Pak Saroni. Sama Pak Tajudin, Sekretaris. Halo Mas, Rokot Aina.
فأتيت إلى حبيبي واهدأ يا قلب ورفقا صلي على السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا حبيبي يا نبي الله السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا حبيبي يا نبي الله يا رسول قلب بالحق تعلم وبغالب ما أتعلم يبكي يسأل خالقه فأتاه الوحي فأشرق اقرأ يتعلم وبغالب ما أتعلم يبكي يسأل خالقه فأتاه الوحي فأشرق اقرأ يا محمد السلام عليك يا
بحبك وبريدك. Bisa kan? Ah, belum bisa? Oh, hatu-hatu itu. بحبك وبريدك واتمنى مسعيدك قدامك ومريدك يا جد الحسنين. Besok kalau ketemu lagi pas dia Natalis ya. Bahibbak. Makasih.
Ayo silakan yang mau capek lagi. Asik. Berhabibie salam wa huwa laysa ya'lam qul ya ahlan musallam bil huna wa ahlan ahlan ya habibi qult la ta'lam marhabi salam wa huwa laysa ya'lam qul ya ahlan musallam bil huna wa ahlan ahlan ya habibi qult la ta'lam. فقلت حبيبي دخل هنا فهي سجودي وتبسيا فطلعوني بعض الشباب ولكن علي وفقد الدماء مرحبا بسلم وهو ليس يعلم قلت يا أهلا وسهلا هنا وعلم أهلا أهلا يا حبيبي قلت لا تعلم وعسى فقلت حبيبي خذ هنا فهي سجودي وتبسيا فطلبوني بعض الشباب ولكن علي وفقد الدماء hidup tanpa cinta bagai taman tak berbunga. Hai begitulah kata para pujangga. Aduh hai begitulah kata para pujangga. Taman seorang tanpa bunga. Ada yang dicinta, dia bekerja, entah apa, entah siapa. Oh karena cinta, jiwa gaya العشيق كله خطر وما العشيق ما يبالي لو يتوب كلنا طب الهنا على العشيق كله خطر وما العشيق ما يبالي لو يتوب كلنا طب الهنا ودانا دانا دانا وداني داني دانا وداني داني داني يا دانا داني داني يا دانا طب الهنا صبر